Hello, 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 and welcome to Thorough Thoughts with EpitaphFox. Today we have GamesGuru1 with us, talking about media such as gaming, movies, and TV. Before we begin, Guru, could you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, hi. My name's Dell. Obviously, I'll go by GamesGuru1 best when I'm out there. I'm a UK-based variety streamer and content creator, random nerd, community founder and leader, and a jack of all trades. I've been gaming and playing games and discussing games and everything gaming related since like the 80s, but also a mixture of pop culture, comics, movies, TV shows, a bit of everything really. I've got a random backlog of quotes and thoughts and comments from about 30 years worth of television, movies, and comics and books. And I basically just go with it to create content, try to entertain people, bring people together, help and support. And yeah, that's basically me in a nutshell.
Well, thank you so much for that. And also, Guru, I can't start our conversation with anything other than firstly pointing out that you are probably one of the busiest people I have ever met online. Not necessarily that you're always doing something, but it seems like you've got your hands just everywhere. You're always around, and I say that affectionately.
It does feel like I never stop. Like this weekend just gone was a classic example. I went to what we call an MCR meetup on Friday, which was a Twitch supported gaming meetup for content creators in Manchester. That was obviously most of the afternoon and evening. Saturday night, me and my son have like an evening where we play Borderlands together. It's proper father son, and that was late night. Yes, Sunday I was up late streaming and supporting my friend Becky Darkart. We were playing Split Fiction till the late hours and finally finished that game in co-op. I mean, I got home last night from work. Burn Manor was working all weekend as well. I thought I just want to stop for an evening and maybe just read. And I did actually stop and went bed this side of midnight my time, which is rare. But yeah, as an example, I don't seem to stop. I always have something on the go, some idea, something I want to do. And don't get me wrong, it's exhausting at times, but I wouldn't really have it any other way because this is a life I chose, or maybe it chose me. And this sort of thing I love doing. It stresses me out sometimes, and there's never enough hours in a day. But we get there sometimes, and we get through everything I want to do, and the results, and just the satisfaction after finishing it is just amazing, and it makes it worthwhile. All for sleepless nights, all for lack of sleep. Obviously, family, and job, and in real life stuff comes into it as well. But it's a juggle, definitely, and it's a struggle. But I always seem to manage it. It's like Bioware magic, but just more personal. It's like guru magic. In the end, it all just comes together. I mean, it's like in the end, it just all works. It just works.
Well, when it comes to the day to day, it just has to work because if it doesn't, then everything falls apart, right?
Exactly. Yes.
So let's go ahead and
But
just jump right into the questions here. Um,
okay.
it would be remiss of me to not start a conversation about media with anything other than video games. What is your favorite video game of all time and why?
Oh, okay. Obviously, you're mature gamer yourself. You've been around the block a few times, so you might know some of these answers, but we'll see. I think my favorite of all time, one you might know, but it's going back to the days of Commodore 64. Yes, I am that old. It was a game called School Days, which is, as the name suggests, school was spelled SKOOL, like a kid would write it. It was basically you played a kid in a school, and it had like a very linear narrative in terms of gameplay. You had to basically get your homework locked from staff room safe, and your school report, because obviously it was a bad report because you were a bad kid. And every time you did something bad and got caught out, you got lines off for variety teachers. And if you got like 10,000 lines total, you got expelled. So that was like kind of your life. So you had to go to class, behave yourself, sneak around behind the backs. And if you Google it, you'll see it's very similar. It's a side scroller, very basic. It's like one screen, but again, we're going back to 8-bit at this point. But it was just the idea at the time, the concept was very unique. And I must have sunk hours into it, playing it, and replayability. I did beat it like multiple times, but there was always something about coming back to it. That's the earliest one I continuously play whenever they release it on every platform I touch on, is a game called Another World, which is a cinematic action adventure platformer, which has been pretty much around since the early Amiga days. And it's available on modern platforms as well, on like obviously backwards compatibility. It's quite simple polygraphic graphics, and it's a simple narrative with very little dialogue, but it's so cinematic. And it is literally like this guy trapped on another world and fighting to survive. They're the two favorite games, what I always stick by, and games like Bully, when that came along, was a very good like shout out to school days back in the day because of the concept. It was just obviously in a GTA setting. But both them games stick out for most, as in I could literally play them over and over and never get bored with them.
Very great picks. I'll be honest in that I haven't heard of School Days or Another World, but I did do a quick Googling of them and looked at some pictures and GIFs while you were talking about them. They sound like very fun games, and I see that they've also been um, remastered, so to speak. Another World had a 20th anniversary edition. School Days is on Steam and it has upgraded graphics. They look like very
Yes.
fun games.
They are, and they're very unique for the time. I mean, school days especially, it was like a school simulator. But obviously back when the Commodore 64 Spectrum Amstrad era, they had limited like space and graphical capability, so they had to be really creative making games, not like nowadays, which is obviously something I'm sure we'll touch on later. But for imagination and for workarounds developers had to come up with to make a game work with a like limited ability, it's just astonishing by today's standards. You just take it so much for granted with what they can do nowadays. But you don't realize what it's come from, where it started.
We may touch back on this later on in the interview, but just to talk briefly on the idea of the older games, creators and designers of games, they really had so many constraints that they took a lot of shortcuts and workarounds to fit as much as possible into video games, that it almost feels like games nowadays are too big. The restraints are so much wider that what would have been like taking shortcuts to make things work back in the past, in my opinion, is now taking shortcuts to make things work so that there is more space for the other bigger things. And I think that's where you get a lot of glitches coming from.
Yes, I mean one of my big bugbears with modern gaming, which I'm sure is yours as well, is the fact they just release games whenever they have a deadline. It has to be out, no matter what state it's in. Just get it out and you pay for it, and then they fix it with an online patch, day one patch. And it's like back when School Days came out, it was on cassette. Check that out, kids. Google cassette and ask your parents about what a cassette is. But back then, when they released a game, if it didn't work, the game couldn't be fixed. So you didn't sell that game and it was done. Once you sent that game to print to get put onto a cassette or a CD later on and then put in a box and sold on a shelf, if that game did not work, you could not fix it. And I think modern developers forget how easy they've got it now. I mean, granted, it's not easy making video games. I'm not saying it is, but they've got obviously so much time, resources, but also this mentality where it's like, it doesn't really work, but we'll release it, we get people to buy it, and then when we complain about the issues, we'll fix the issues. It's almost like gamers now are paying for a privilege of being like beta testers. It's like, oh, I've noticed this problem. Oh, thanks for your feedback. We'll fix it in a patch. This stuff should be fixed before it's even released. It should be polished to that standard, so there's no complaints with sound graphics. I know it's not that easy, and again, I don't
Yeah.
claim it's that easy, but it just seems nowadays they got this mentality: oh, if something doesn't work, we'll fix it later. But you couldn't do that 20, 30 years ago.
I definitely have my own thoughts and opinions on this, but I'll hold off for right now until we get to that portion of the interview. Jumping back to the different forms of media, we talked about your favorite games. What about your favorite TV shows or movies?
Oh God, again, 80s nerd here. So TV shows back in the day, obviously I grew up with like Saturday morning cartoons, which obviously everything's on YouTube nowadays or on streaming services. But like He-Man, Thundercats, Transformers, big fan of 80s pop culture cartoons. Even now, because just an old nerd, I'll happily quote Transformer quotes and He-Man and stuff. I love obviously when they revive things and old franchises get remade, because obviously nowadays there's no new ideas. It's just all the old ideas remade. But movies, favorite like film series, obviously Star Wars, Lord of the Rings. For Transformers movies, I guess up to a point. But things like the Tremor series, if you know about the Tremor series,
I don't
which
know
is
that one.
it's basically B movie, like monster movie. It's very cheesy. It's the first one was very cheaply made, but they did about 7 movies. It's basically underground monster worms eating people. But it's not seriously. Watch it if you like B movies. Again, going really old school. I grew up watching really old films like It Came from a Desert, black and white monster movies with like giant ants. Again, back then, movie making was had to be so creative because they didn't have anything like CG or anything. But I love that sort of stuff. Big fan of mythical things, so werewolves, vampires. So any films with them in, obviously, Dog Soldiers is a really good English, well, British made film from back in the day. That was like early 2000s, cheaply made, but basically army unit versus werewolves. Because yes, it, don't get me wrong, I can appreciate films like For Shawshank Redemption, fantastic movie, and things like The Great Escape. But my heart's always in sci-fi and fantasy, and for sometimes for bad ones, are the most entertaining. I mean, I liked the Super Mario Bros. Movie with Bob Hoskins, which is everybody seems to hate, but I love it because it was just so cheap and basic, but it was entertaining. And that's the whole point of a movie, like a video game, like anything else. It's to be entertained, but everybody's tastes are totally different.
Well, speaking on entertainment, between these three media sources, I would say storytelling and entertainment are the core elements. Between video games, TV shows, and movies, which do you think has the best storytelling and or entertainment value?
Ooh. You see, the good thing about with video games, you can change for storytelling for narrative as the story evolves, like through DLC or sequels. Same with movies, I suppose. Books and movies kind of have to have a story self-contained. You can't really tinker with it. That's the beauty of video games. It's a ever evolving narrative you can change and improve upon with sequels or within the game itself. Because again, you can go back and change things fundamentally. You can't re-edit a movie. Well, you can, but you can't really do it on the fly via the internet. But I think it's a tougher. I mean, back when I was a kid, God, again, I sound like my dad when I talk like this. I do apologise. There was no internet, so video games were very basic, and they came in later. So my first source of storytelling media was television and books and comics. And personally, I think you can't beat a good book. Even now, I try to find time to read books. Doesn't always work, but I love a good book. For Harry Potter books from years ago, everybody loved, and I really got on board with that. Obviously, sci-fi, fantasy, real life stuff, crime stuff. Movies is probably my most favorite one for my entertainment media because you can tell so many crazy stories. But when I was a kid, movies was limited by obviously technical stuff like
Mm-hmm.
CG, what you could do in a book. you can write about anything and anything can happen, and obviously you use your imagination, fill in the blanks. But just like video games nowadays, you can do anything. Movies, you can technically do anything, but originally you couldn't. You were limited to what you could film and how you did it, practical effects, that sort of thing. But for me, it's still probably best storytelling is probably a book, because books can do transport you anywhere, and obviously you get a lot more from a book than a movie. Like for Lord of the Rings books, have so much more in them than the movies, because you have to take so much out. Same with the Harry Potter series, just to make it work. You couldn't have everything from a book in a movie.
When I was coming
So
up with these questions, I very specifically did not include books for this one, only
yeah,
because, and it's perfectly okay that you said books. The only reason is because I think books give the advantage that video games have over TV shows and movies, and that is allowing the consumer of the media to really put themselves into the scenario. There's an element of um, your perspective being directly at the forefront of the story that's being told. TV shows and movies, I feel like that distance from like eyes to screen allows just enough of a disconnect that you could remember that you are on the outside looking in. But a video game where you're directly impacting the story by moving the character, you are the one interacting with the world the game is presenting yourself, is the same as reading the book, as well as, you know, the written page can offer way more in terms of description than oh, hey, I think we just lost you. Are you back?
yeah, I'm back. And you went quiet, and then it blipped for a second. I think there was a break in connection.
No, perfectly
Well,
fine. I was just
you-
rambling anyway.
it's fine. No, I completely get. And obviously, looking back over the notes we made, yeah, you're right. We didn't include books, but
But
again, I'm known for going
perfectly
off on a
fine.
tangent. But you're right about what you said about video games, because you are a hero of that story. And games like the Mass Effect series, your your choices can have so much consequences, which you would not get in a book. A book and a movie has a linear narrative. It's already been for story players out as is. But a video game, you can change that story literally on the fly, and that's probably why video games have nowadays the best in terms of storytelling, because you can do any sort of story with any sort of character in any sort of setting, and you can directly influence that storytelling by your own gameplay actions.
So, moving on then. I couldn't imagine having a discussion on media without also talking about the elephant in the room, AI. What do you think about the impact of AI on media?
Well, trust me, I grew up watching the Terminator franchise, so I know where this is all going. I think we are literally building Skynet at this point, and nobody's listening. But it's good as a tool and as a companion app, and I can see for benefits. But you're getting to a point where I think, and this is the danger, you rely too heavily on it for creativity, for help and support. And it should be there to help and support, but not like a crutch. Like now, apparently, there's rumors like in countries like England and America where kids in school are using AI to write school like homework. And then on the flip side, apparently teachers are using AI to like mark homework. So at this point, what's the point in having a teacher or a student? Because the AI is doing both sides of this view. But it's one of those. I mean, when you've got like AI writing the story, I don't agree with that. And AI can now be in movies. You get to a point where you won't need movie stars because you can just generate them. You won't need voice actors because you can just generate it. So it's getting to a point where there won't be any need for real people's input. And considering where for media started, whether it's TV shows, movies, or games, to where we're going at now, it's dangerous where it's heading if it's not properly controlled. Plus, also films like Megan. If you've watched their movies as well, it's like, yeah, AI. I don't think we should rely on it so much and trust it. And when it comes to entertainment and media, we shouldn't be like, oh, let's use AI. it's there as a tool, but I think some people will use it and potentially abuse it. But you can't deny it's here, and I don't think it's going anywhere.
No, I completely agree, especially with that last statement there. It's here, it's not going anywhere. I've always felt that there is a moral and ethical use of AI as a tool. It's meant to assist in the development of things, not replace the development of things.
Yes.
And unfortunately, for the large amount of the populace across the globe, there are people who just don't care about that. It is being used as a tool still, but in a way of destroying careers in the efforts of saving money. It's replacing jobs as opposed to supporting jobs, and I
Yes.
do think that there is hope and solace in that there are people out there who are just they're so fervent in their desire to retain the soul in art and creation that no matter what happens with technology as we move forward in time, there will always be a core belief that you can tell when something just isn't right or has no soul in it.
Yes, I mean I do watch a lot of like reviews and content creators on YouTube. Obviously, that's part of the life we lead. And some of the modern games, you can clearly tell when you play games or watch people play games. I've even commented themselves. You can tell when some of the story's been literally generated by an AI. By the way it talks, it's like not so much robotic, but sometimes people wouldn't say things a certain way, or you wouldn't say that, or you wouldn't reply with that. And it's like clearly they filled in the blanks with AI. They was like, well, what do we say here? How do we progress the story? Oh,
Mm-hmm.
ask Chat GPT. And you shouldn't. You should be like, right, we need to sit down and craft a story. When you write a book, you don't do it, or you never used to. Movies, but again, this is for quickly becoming the norm. It's like, why do you need screenwriters? We'll just get an AI to write the script. We need like better control over and laws in place and legislation to prevent that from happening because like you said people are losing their jobs over it, and people always lose their jobs over like electronic replacements. I mean, like for car industry as a classic example, robots make cars more than humans now, but it's now getting to a point where people are like, well, I'm a voice actor, so they can't possibly ever replace me in my line of work. And guess what, there's a way you can now, and that's wrong on so many levels.
Yeah, that's the kind of stuff that leads us further into the dead internet theory territory, which is something that I'm concerned with to an extent. Like, I don't know if you're also a user of TikTok, for example. There are definitely more bots than people on the platform, and you can just tell because of the way that like you're spammed with messages or like spam comments just kind of everywhere. It's the same for other like platforms, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook Reels, and all of that. uh,
Yes.
Bots are just everywhere, and AI is just the next development of making bots seem more human than bots. Um, and that's kind
It,
of like a thing that I worry about. But as far as like the entertainment industry and video games, movies, etc., I think that there are ways to use it for a better purpose than the way that it is being used. And I always think the best of people going forward, that there will be uh backlash, or if not backlash, then at least like resistance to creations that have no human element to them. There's video games on Steam, for example. There's a particular tag that gets added to games and warnings that need to be established in the description of those games if there is AI artwork in there, or if the game is fully created by AI at the direction of like one person just kind of putting AI creations mashed together. And that gives the consumer the option to avoid that if they want, and that's leading further then into a the populace will decide how okay they are with these things.
Yes, completely agree. That's what I love about you, Epic. You're like on my wavelength, and obviously similar generation, just much better looking. But it's one of those you need it needs more control and it needs more like transparency. Like you said, when you pick up a video game, and obviously you see like for developers, they need to now be more transparent and say, look, yeah, we developed this game, but for stories made by an AI, and people will be like, well, and let them choose whether to like support it or not. Because obviously, if I had a game completely made by AI, I probably wouldn't play it out of principle because it's like it's not made with any heart or soul. It's soulless,
Mm-hmm.
like you said. It might be entertaining, but it's soulless. But it's a very tricky situation. If used properly, it can be a good tool. But I think people will start using it more and more as a workaround. It's like, well, I don't have to put any real effort in because I can just get the AI to do it. And obviously, this is going to lead on to a whole new form of media where everything's computer generated and just like one guy, like you said, typing commands in the computer, no creativity, no passion, no forethought saying this is what I want to do. It's like I just want to make something what will make me AI do it for me. For example, one of my favorite movies of recent years is the Spider-Verse game movies. That is some fantastic animation, and obviously the comic style is very unique. So hats off to Sony. People obviously designed that, and computers generated it, but the story is still made by humans and scripted, and they've come up with that fantastic wibbly wobbly timey wimey cross dimension and universe story. If you can imagine the third movie we're making, if that story was then took over completely by an AI program, does that film then is literally all made in a computer in one way or the other, and I wouldn't watch it because it'd be like, well, you could tell the story would be totally different and it would feel different. And it wouldn't have any sort of emotional connection because like a computer's thought this up, and a computer will think this is entertaining, this is fun, and this is sad. But it's sometimes when you listen to video games with obvious AI dialogue, and it's so stiff and it's so
Mm-hmm.
awkward, and like people don't talk that way. You wouldn't reply to that question or that situation with that comment, and it will impact storytelling in a big way if you take out the human element. And I hope to God we don't get to that stage, because if it is, I'm out. I'm retiring from like media. That's it. I'll just sit there and read a book again. You can't AI a book, at least not a physical book.
Well, I think you really hit the nail on the head with what you said at the start here, which is transparency. Transparency uh, is king. It leads to consumer choice, because there's going to be people out there who just don't care, right? And that's just a fact of it. There's going to be people out there who say, I don't care that it was made by a algorithm choosing things based off of everything created in the past. There's going to be people out there who just don't mind, as well. Like there's going to be people who maybe have heard like, oh yeah, when AI does that stuff and like it costs people's jobs, whatever, and they'll still consume those medias. And honestly, personally speaking, I don't mind if people want to support those things. Who am I to say don't do that? I can take my position of, hey, I don't agree with these things, and maybe you don't know about these negative things. I will try to tell you, but if someone wants to make that choice and consume those forms of media, that's on them. But the transparency and choice, I think, are the biggest two things that need to remain active and prevalent moving forward as AI continues to further develop and adapt.
Oh, definitely. You will always have a percentage of a population who just doesn't really care at all about how things are made. They just want it, and that's obviously what the market we're going to focus on. But as long as there's enough people like yourself and myself which care and will push back and say, look, that's not what we want. Along with the majority of people like that, hopefully they will still continue to listen. It's when the majority don't care or indifferent, that's where the danger. It's like, well, nobody cares, so we're just going to keep doing it. and that's it's for complacency. It's in every form of media, just complacency. It's like, well, we won't think up a new IP or a new concept. We'll just remaster or remake something. Look at The Last of Us. How many times that game, for first and second game, has been re-released on the same platform, and people keep buying it. FIFA, sorry, FC nowadays, annual release, and people keep buying it. A new iPhone comes out every year, and people keep buying it, and it's because it's become the norm, and it's like we're used to it. Oh, I don't know if we're going to touch on this later. Again, I told you I can talk about anything for hours. Remember Oblivion back in the day?
Yes.
No, for horse armor.
The infamous horse armor.
Yes, and there was uproar, and it was like, oh, you're charging for like a free piece of thing to download. Oh, this is that. Fast forward to 2025. Where we now with like microtransactions and cosmetics and macro transactions and just paid transactions. But I remember when the horse armor thing first exploded and everybody was uproar and go, ugh. And nowadays it's like, it's common, and people don't care anymore because it's there, and it's been there for years, and people get used to it, and that's what we're banking on. It's like when Apple released an iPhone without a headphone socket. There was uproar. It's like, oh, what meant do we have to now buy wireless headphones? You have to buy your wireless headphones, and Apple went, tough. That's what we're doing. A year later, everybody was like, yeah, it's got a headphone thing. I use wireless headphones now. It's they basically do it, and we know people are going to complain and push back and voice opinion and concerns, and then they'll be like, this it's going to be. But I'm hoping we don't get to a point where people are like, yeah, we're doing this way now, and this is the way it's going to be. So like it or lump it, and then people will just accept it and move on.
Well,
That's the danger, I think.
I will say, in regards to the Apple and the removing of the headphone jack from phones kind of debacle, at the time of that initially happening, it was an uproar because it was a huge change compared to what the norm was. But
yeah,
beyond that, when phones just kind of adapted this new model of, no, we don't need to do headphone jacks anymore, the availability and technology of wireless headphones dramatically increased. The Bluetooth headphones, the wireless headphones that were available back when Apple made that decision X amount of years ago was so small in comparison to nowadays. And I think that's one of those things where demand fuels supply.
Yes, innovation needs a spark. It needs something to innovate it. My alternative view to that, you're completely right. You need to be pushed to ever increase technology and improve it, and everything. As a beauty of technology and medium, it's constantly evolving, and this is the latest evolution with AI. But when Apple made that decision, the main problem everybody had, including myself, and I'm not even an Apple user, it was like, right, I have to now buy wireless headphones.
Mm-hmm.
You could have been at that point up to then use plug-in headphones, and then you had a choice between plug-in and wireless, and then they took the choice away from you. And now it's the norm. It's like, oh, no phones come with a headphone socket. And it's like, but back then it was like, maybe I couldn't afford to get wireless headphones on top of this new phone. And I think it's for taking away for choice, which personally affects me most.
Yeah.
I don't mind a choice, and I might choose what you want me to choose, but I want a choice. I don't want to be pushed in that direction. There's a famous personal thing I live by, like part of my own code, when it comes to like friends and situations. If there's a situation where two friends fall out, and I know I'm friends with both of them, and this has happened recently, and one of them gives me an ultimatum like, well, if you're friends with them, we can't be friends. I'll quite happily, without even thinking, go, okay, bye. And then they'll be like, but we're friends. And say, yeah, but you're making me choose. You should let me choose what I want to do. Maybe I want to be friends with both of you, and we're adults, and that should work. But making me choose is not choice. and I won't live that way, whether it's to do with relationships, friendships, or to some degree technology. I mean, again, I've got a headphone now. Sorry, I've got a phone, and I use wireless headphones. When I first got my phone after Apple started doing that, I got Samsung. Without realising, I got it home and went, oh yeah, we don't have headphone sockets. So fortunately, I had some wireless earbuds at that point, but it was a case of if I didn't, I would have to go out and buy it. I've just bought this phone. Nowadays, you buy an Apple phone for £2,000, you don't get a plug in a box. Where's that come from? Like you buy a phone or a tablet or earbuds or smartwatch, and you don't get a plug. Why? We know why, because obviously it means they can save money not giving you a plug, but we're just assuming you've got a plug, and it's like you're assuming that people are going to spend more money on top of the money you've just like took off them to complete your product. It kind of cuts back round a bit to gaming, where they'll basically sell you bits to fix the game or fix the game later. You don't get a complete product with so many pieces of tech nowadays, and it's physical and digital. What suffer because I'm due an upgrade next month around my birthday. I already know that whatever phone I go with will not have a plug or a headphone socket. Fortunately, I already have a plug and I have wireless headphones, but in my job, we do sell tech, and part of the norm is like when we sell a phone or a tablet or earbuds or anything, we go, "Do you need a plug?" And there's still a good chunk of the population will go, "What? You don't get a plug in a box?" And I was like, "No." And it's not a new thing; it's been there for years. It's just taking away choice. I just don't like it. I want a choice.
It's sacrificing convenience for getting more money out of consumers.
Yes,
And
sorry, mini rant over.
honestly, perfectly even. All of this conversation really leads into the next topic, shifting away from AI. In the pre-interview form, when asked about negative aspects of our topic, you mentioned a few different things that I think deserve some time to be discussed. I'll go through them one at a time and we can talk about these for a moment. We already talked
Yep.
about this first item earlier on, but we can just fully further develop it, I should say. Firstly, items such as games being released in a quote unquote broken state to be fixed after the fact. This is
Yep.
something that you've already talked about, but I share your opinion on this. I miss the days when games could just be released and that's the way it is. I think it's great that we have the technology now that if something is broken, that it can be fixed remotely and it's not just oops, sorry, that's just the way it is. But I definitely get the feeling, and maybe it's not really the fault of like the developers of the game, that games are released needing further fixes. Like they're not perfected before release. They're like it's good enough to sell, we'll fix it later.
I think it's a case of deadlines because it's like it's not the developers who set the deadlines, it's for corporations and for people at the top setting deadlines saying, right, this game, we're financing this game, we're paying your wages. This
Mm-hmm.
has a release at this time because we want to make money from it, your product. And there's sometimes they don't care about the state. It's like, right, we've said it's coming out at this time, it needs to go out in whatever state. Again, it's complacency. It's like, well, we can do because we can fix it afterwards. If that wasn't there, it'd be like, well, we can't release it. It doesn't work. Now it's like release it in however it is, and you can fix it later. And we'll let people buy it first, half baked, half complete, broken in some aspects, and happy days. Um, what makes me laugh, especially drawing on this bit, when games have a release date and they have a day one release, if you know what that means.
Oh, like the day one patches.
Kind of, it's like you will buy a new game, and if you pay extra, you will get the game early.
Oh
So
yeah.
you get it early. I'm using air quotes. I know you can't see me. You get it before the general population, but it's obviously that is not an early release. That is to me day one because the game's out, and it normally goes out then. And then the day one patch is when the official release date. So from my perspective, you're paying extra for a game which is even less complete than people who wait a week and pay less for finished product. So you buy a game a week early, but it's not a week early. It's come out. That's the release date. It's not got a day one patch because it's not out yet. Again, air quotes. So you're playing it broken, buggy, whatever, which you feed back to developers, and then you help them on the official release date, where people who paid for normal price get it, to then release a day one patch to fix the broken ass game you paid extra for.
Yeah, people are
Why?
paying extra to become beta testers.
You're paying for a privilege to help the developers fix the game for proper release date.
But you know
But
what?
you've
Some people like doing that. It wouldn't exist if people didn't want to do that.
they'll probably do it with GTA 6 when it comes out next year, with
yeah.
especially with the online aspect. You'll pay like $200. Let's be honest. They could even charge that. I mean, no people will pay for it. They could charge anything at this point. $200, you get it a week early, and it could be completely broken in so many aspects, and people won't care. It'll be like, take me money. And then it'll come out on normal release day for those poor fools who can't afford the premium edition. And then on that day, they'll release a patch based on everybody's experiences from the previous week, and it'll work better. It still probably won't be 100% better, but you've just saved yourself probably about $100. And I've got to the age where I can wait a week. I don't have to. Don't get me wrong. Some games I'm like, I want to play that day one, and that's where services like Game Pass comes in handy, because that gives you access to games you wouldn't normally be able to afford to buy or might not want to, because it's like, well, it costs money to buy it, but at the same time, I can wait for a game. When a game gets delayed, like GTA got delayed, and like people were literally like, no, doing Vader, going no, and I'm like, you know what? If it means that the game gets released and it's perfect, let it cook. Let them take the extra 6 months to a year, because I know what it's like when they rush things out the door. I've said it so many times that it's almost comical how people are. I mean, people defend it, and it's like, what is wrong with your head? And I've got to the age where I'm older and grumpier, and definitely got a shorter fuse on some subjects. But I have to bite my tongue sometimes when people defend this garbage. Like, again, new FIFA comes out, new Madden. I don't watch American football. I won't call it football because, let's be honest, Epi, it's not football, mate. It's American football, which you don't even kick the ball, which again my brain does not comprehend.
They kick
But
it sometimes, like
you
once
kick
or
it
twice.
sometimes, but you pick it up and run off with it. So that's not football. When you carry something with hands, not feet. But let's not go into this. This is transatlantic perspectives here. But my point is that when Madden comes out, since the license is held by EA solely, and nobody else can make a American football game, they can basically churn out every year the same crap, and it has the same bugs and issues. And people say that every year. This was in last year's, and they still buy it. And EA are like, well, yeah, we'll fix it. By the way, don't forget to buy for premium edition. But when you got an annual release, but it's just the corporations. It's like games used to be made by people in like the sheds and basements, guys like coming together using the skills, like you said, limited time, technology, resources to make things work, and it had real heart, soul, and passion. In the 80s and 90s, now it's like corporated mandate. There's always a bloody agenda to the story or the design or whatever. You can't just make a video game because it's fun anymore. It's got to make not just money, but all the money. And some games will print money, like GTA 6. But at the same time, I won't play it because I want to spend hours online and giving more money to Rockstar. I want to play a story which I like and characters I enjoy. And I want to feel something. Again, going back to storytelling. But it's just when you release an annual release, you've got a year to make again, air quotes, new game. But you don't. You just build upon for last year's release and try to fix it and improve it to justify the new price tag. And some developers don't even try. COD, I mean, they announced Black Ops 7 at for the Xbox Showcase last month. No sign of Halo, no update on Gears, but new COD's coming, and it's been like, good lord, when GTA 6, sorry, Black Ops 6 only came out less than a year ago, and now we've got 7 on its way. Fair enough, they spent enough money on the bloody studio, but I don't want another Black Ops. I want a new Halo or Gears or a new IP. But we know people are going to buy it, and after a year, can you imagine how much it's going to be different or innovative? It's just going to be more of the same, but people will lap it up because it's one of them franchises. Sorry, mini ranting again.
It's perfectly fine, and like I get what you mean, and I agree with it as well.
It's
It's just
frustrating, man.
it's an imaginary box that when you press a button, money comes out, and when the money stops coming out, they'll look for the next box to press the button to get the money to come out from.
Yes.
And another like seamless transition from you, Guru. You touched on the other two topics here, and I'll just go ahead and just read them out, and we can just keep talking about it. But the second topic of negativity was media industries being run by corporations without drive or passion. And the third topic being increased focus of squeezing money out of consumers. I will say, at least in regards to the topic about the broken state of games needing to be fixed later, one of the biggest examples of that in recent history being the game No Man's Sky. I don't know if you ever played that, but it took them a year or so between free updates and free DLCs to get the game post release to be as big and grandiose as they were promising it would be on release. But on
Yes.
the opposite side of that, there has been a trend within the last few years that I've noticed of video game companies allowing for their development teams the extra time when things aren't up to par the way they thought they would be in time for launch. There has been a increase over the past few years of announcements about games having delayed release dates compared to when they were first announced as being released. And I think that's just good. I don't mind when I see a post saying this game has been delayed 6 or 8 months. I look at that as great. More time for them to fix the problems. I'm not expecting all the problems to go away, but that's the company, the people in charge, telling their developers, you've been asking for more time, we're giving you the more time.
So I think it's not so much asking, it's that listening, because I like to think that 99% of the time it's developers saying to the board of directors, look, if we release this now, it's not going to work, it's not going to make any money. And it always boils down to money nowadays, which is, again, for major bugbear. That if we release it now, it's not going to make any money, and you're going to lose money. So give us a time, and they wait up and go, okay. As a recent example, Marathon, because the way the state that was in and what it was getting, it was like they went to, obviously Bungie went to the directors and said to Sony and went, we need more time, and they actually listened. That's what we want. I mean, it could still release in a terrible state, but at least they've took the time to listen and go, look, if we release when you want us to release, it's gonna be crap, and everybody's gonna slate it, and it's not gonna make you money. But it's not. Never think for a second it's down to like creative control. Like, oh yeah, we want to craft the best possible story, gameplay, and narrative ever. It will boil down to, well, if we release it now, it won't make us as much money as if we release it later. Grand Theft Auto, you could probably release it now and it'll sell by bucket loads. Rockstar want more time to work on it.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, don't ever be under the illusion that they're now thinking, well, if we take longer to release, build the hype, tinker with it, make it, polish it more, it will make even more money for us. Because money makes the world go around, I'm afraid.
That
And
it
it makes
does.
you creatively bankrupt as well.
Well, stepping away from the negative aspects, back to more positive discussion. Not to say that,
Okay.
oh, okay, we've gotten our fill. It's just, there's more to talk about than just the negatives when it comes to media.
We grew your men moaning about the state of video games.
Where do you stand on the streaming versus theater debate regarding watching movies?
Ooh. It's time versus convenience. Nowadays, like what makes me laugh is nowadays we're busier than ever doing everything. You touched on how busy I always seem to be, and you're right. It's finding time to go to a cinema now. And I think a classic recent example is obviously I wanted to go watch both Captain America and Thunderbolts because again, big Marvel fan, big nerd. Not but went to see either of them, but part of that was not so much I need to make time to watch it. Part of me thought process was like it'll be on Disney Plus in about 3 months. I'll watch it then whenever I want to. So there's that danger, and again, showing me age. I remember when you used to go to a cinema to watch a movie. Jurassic Park 1. There's a classic example. I watched Jurassic Park 1 in a cinema. So you probably got a time frame of how old I actually am at this point. Back then, you watched it at the cinema. It took 6 months to a year to be available to rent at Blockbuster. Anybody listening remember Blockbuster? And then another year from that point for it to be even remotely considered to be on TV, normally around Christmas on a TV channel. That was turnaround of potentially 2 years before you could watch it at home, depending on if you owned a video recorder and you were posh like that. So nowadays, it's like watch a movie within a month. You can potentially buy or rent it on a streaming platform. So what's the point in going to the cinema? For social aspect, yes, and I am determined to watch Fantastic Four at cinema because again, that's another Marvel movie, and I really want to watch that, and I want this cinema experience. It's like watching a sporting event, going to the stadium and watching it, or watching it on TV. It's different. It's a different experience altogether. But I think we're getting to a point where we're so busy. A lot of people are like, you know what? I'll skip this one. I'll watch it when it comes on streaming platform. I'll watch it on my phone on my dinner when I'm in work. For convenience is fantastic, but it does take away from it. I would love to be able to go to a cinema and watch every movie I want. I haven't got time. I can't afford it. So some of that is stripped away because, and it lessens for facts. I used to be like proper. Oh, I've not seen it. God damn it. God knows when I'm going to be able to watch it. Now it's like I watch it when it comes to Disney Plus. Captain America's on Disney Plus now. Movies which came out literally last month, you can now rent on like Amazon Prime, and it's just crazy how the time frame shrunk to literally. But you've got to a point now. It's like, well, what's the point in going to a cinema? I mean, during like lockdown and COVID, I'm surprised cinema as a business survived because you couldn't go to a cinema, and it
Yeah.
was like a year. So I'm surprised how resilient the cinema market was to get back on its feet after that. But now the real danger is now people are like, well, what's the point in going? I'll watch it at home when I'm home from work. I'll get a takeout and do it. And it's also expensive because cinema tickets cost money. If you go to one of the big
Yeah.
company metroplexes, they cost even more for that comfort and style. Snacks cost an absolute fortune. Popcorn, drinks, and everything. It is like going out. It's like going out with your friends. It's a social night, not just like, oh, I'll nip to a cinema after work with a couple of friends and watch this new movie. I went to see Deadpool and Wolverine twice last year. That's ridiculously rare for me to watch a movie twice at the cinema. I went to watch it with one lot of friends and went to watch it again because it was that good a movie. I didn't mind. But there's not many movies I would actually consider doing that with, and watching it once would count as it must be a good movie to devote time and money to go and watch it in that social and entertainment experience.
The money
So
aspect and like the cost of time as well is very important in this debate that I really don't think from not necessarily that I actively participate in this debate and have done research into it, but from my own recollection of talking to people about this in the past, I don't think it's a factor that a lot of people consider as heavily as I think they should. With cost rising and less free time as we go on through the years, choosing to go to the theater to watch a movie is a much bigger decision than it was in the past. Can I afford the cost and the sunk time of making this event, or is it way more convenient and cheaper to enjoy it roughly the same in the convenience of my home, where I don't have to pay for extra food and I can also pause the movie to take care of things? I will
yeah,
say there is a great beneficial value of experiencing certain kinds of movies in theater, horror and suspense in particular. I think those movies are designed with the theater experience in mind. You're not focusing on anything else. You're in a dark room. The sound is as loud as it can without hurting your ears. You are fully enveloped in the experience. And I think watching a horror or suspense film outside of that environment takes away from the actual movie itself. But I do think overall, streaming is just better.
Yes. At the end of the day, Epa, it's the same movie. Or you're watching the same movie experience and how you experience that movie. Some movies are designed to watch at the cinema. The big epic ones like Titanic and Gladiator, I watched them at the cinema and it was like, wow. But I think another factor is there's so many movies nowadays and so many movies are bad. And again, it's the state of that media. There's so many movies being made, and like Marvel movies, some are like obviously with Captain America and Thunderbolts. Some people love them, some people hate them, but they're not as good as they used to be. I'll be a fool to say if the MCU is as good as it used to be. But now part of the worry is if I'm dropping all this money, all this dollar on going to a cinema, if the movie's rubbish, how am I going to feel? I'm not going to enjoy it. I'm going to be like, I've just wasted money. Why didn't I just wait to watch it at home? Because if you're watching at home and it's a bad movie, you can just turn it off and go, I watch something else. You've not wasted any money.
Yeah.
But I've been to movies where I've watched the movie all the way through and I've hated it. But I've thought I've spent money watching this movie. I'm getting my money's worth. Rise of Skywalker, classic. Last Jedi, again, love Star Wars. I went to see Last Jedi. I was so uncomfortable sitting there. I couldn't get comfort. It was making me uncomfortable in my seat. How bad it was. And part of my brain was like, what the hell? If this is Star Wars, how can I not be liking Star Wars? And I watched it through to the end and was like, I hated that movie. I hated the experience. I spent money watching it at the cinema because it's Star Wars at the cinema. But it was like nowadays you got options again. You can be cautious. You can go. I've read some reviews. People are saying it's absolutely garbage. I'll skip this one, and if I really want to watch it, I'll watch it when it comes to a streaming platform. And you'll watch it and go, wow, I'm so glad I didn't spend money to go watch it at the cinema. This is terrible.
I've been very fortunate in that I have never seen a movie in theaters that I didn't enjoy. So I'm very sorry you have had that experience.
It's fine. Again, it's the experience. I mean, there's nothing better than obviously after going with friends, you would maybe go for a drink or some food, and when you're talking about the movie you've just watched, and the conversation will be, "Oh, that was fantastic! Remember that bit when that happened?" I'd be like, "Oh my god, what the heck did we watch?" And you'll absolutely pick it to pieces, but you'll have fun doing it, saying, "Oh god, that was terrible. What do you think? Oh, that was garbage." So yeah, that bit when can you believe that happened? No, can you believe they got killed off and what happened there? But that can be just as much fun. I can watch bad movies. What I have a problem with is spending good money watching a bad movie and wasting time watching a bad movie, because time, especially in this day and age, is so limited but also precious to all of us.
All right, and so moving on then, there's been a surge of popularity recently in making TV and film adaptations of video games, whereas in the past they would be commercial failures or cult hits only. Why do you think that there's more success in adaptations these days?
I think it's because as games have evolved, the storytelling's evolved, and there's better stories to adapt. Don't get me wrong, that can be a double-edged sword. I mean, for Last of Us Season 2 adapted for Last of Us Part 2 perfectly, and people hated both the game and the movie story, because but it was a good story in terms of, like, there was a story to tell which could be adapted into a TV show. Movies like, again, Super Mario Brothers with Bob Hoskins was a terrible movie because it was adapted Mario, and there's not, at that date, there was no plot to Mario games. You control the little guy, bounce something down, rescuing a princess. They had to make a story out of that, and
Yeah.
they tried. And it was shocking, but it was entertaining. Street Fighter, a movie with Van Damme. Go. If you watch that, it's like you're making a movie based on a video game of these people beating each other up. What? And obviously, bless them, they tried. They really tried. And I've watched Street Fighter, the movie, recently on Amazon Prime, and it's just as bad as it was before. It's so bad. It's just there's no. You can't say anything about the story or the plot. It's like it makes no sense. But it's like they had nothing to work with. Modern movies, like obviously, what you got? I'm not seeing the new Until Dawn, but that apparently doesn't adapt for game. It expands on it.
Yeah.
And people were saying like it's in the same universe, could be like part of the game for Dark Anthology series. They could turn the movie into a game. It's not perfect, but the storytelling's there. But I think as the media's evolved and the storytelling's evolved and gamers want better crafted stories, I would love a Gears of War movie, and they've been teasing that for years, a Mass Effect movie. If they actually stick close to the source material, you could make a movie or TV show out of them. They did with The Last of Us. So it's one where they've improved because the medium they're borrowing ideas from and adapting has improved itself. And it's all down to that storytelling. I can watch a movie with really bad effects, but if the storytelling is there and the characters are there, I'll love it. The Resident Evil movies weren't brilliant, but they were entertaining, and they did have enough of a story from the games that you could relate and go, I remember that bit. Oh, that's from that game. So they got better because the games have got better.
I would agree with that. And, obviously, when I'm crafting these questions to give to you, I'm thinking about my own personal answers to them as well. And I think what the commercial success recently comes down to is there's higher interest from the populace, and there's higher interest from consumers, but there's also the people making them are also actively interested in the video games that they're working on or have played similar games in the past. I feel like in the 80s and 90s and even the early 2000s, the people who were in charge of making these video game adaptations weren't as connected to video games as the people making these TV shows and movies nowadays. There's a higher level of information available about the stories that they're adapting into the shows and movies, and there's also just a general sense that they care more about it. Whereas, using the Super Mario Bros. Movie from the past, not the animated successful one from a few years ago.
Yeah.
It really just seemed like, hey, here's the successful video game. I bet if we made a movie using the characters from this, it would make a lot of money too. And they made whatever that was.
But again, like you mentioned, cult classic. If you watch it now, it's achieved cult classics for original Mortal Kombat movies.
Oh,
the
yeah.
first one, especially, that was good. And again, that's how they did it right, in my opinion, versus for people who did Street Fighter. But now, like you said, you've got showrunners and writers who actually play the games and might even be fans. And you've got actors playing parts they love from the favorite franchises.
Yeah.
Henry Cavill in Witcher, classic example. He's played him. He loved Geralt. He knew what Geralt should be. He's read for books, and that all made him. Basically, you can't imagine Liam Hemsworth being anywhere near that level.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm not going to watch like Witcher season 4 and 5, because without Henry Cavill, there's no point. Again, for TV shows, in my opinion, has lost its soul. And the fact that the showrunners went, yeah, we're just going to keep going for where we're going, despite everybody saying, look, this is wrong, including the lead actor. And then he's stood his ground and left on principle. It's like, I'm not going to give you any more time and money or interest when you don't obviously care about the people you're trying to entertain. But there's so much more demand now, and people are more demanding. They want faithful adaptations. They want to see their favorite characters do their favorite things how they would do because of video games, and there's always that capacity to do it. It's down to whether or not the producers and showrunners and the writers actually want to go down that route, because they can go off a wild tangent. It can work with Until Dawn, or it can go completely sideways like Witcher.
Yeah. I just think that for a adaptation to be good, it needs to do one of two things, and this is just my personal opinion on it. As someone not associated or attached to the actual like work that goes into making these things, I feel like I need to say that as a disclaimer.
Yeah.
You either need to follow the source material and make a true adaptation, such as if you are doing a video game that has a particular story with very particular story beats and plot twists and like a particular resolution at the end. You follow those things to a T. You are adapting the source material into a live action, for example. Or on the flip side, you take the setting, the types of characters, not necessarily very specific characters, and you make an original story in that universe. My biggest example for that one would be the Fallout TV series. You have some characters who are characters from the games, but you're not basing the story on anything that actually happened in the games that the players would have played through. Cameo appearances are fine, little Easter eggs here and there, that's fine, but an original story in the setting, I think, works better for adaptations.
Yes, because if you've got a good story and a world and a lore, it's all about world building. If you've got a setting like Fallout, you could have so many other stories based on that world without referencing the games. So Fallout's a really good example. I loved the Fallout TV show, and it, apart from the settings and the concepts, it's got into the games, and it works that way. But you're basing the adaptation on the world, not specific characters. When you base an adaptation on a specific character or set of characters, they have to be faithful, like Witcher, like uh, what else? But like Street Fighter, all that. So you have, and if the characters are not going to act like the people expect them to, like we do in the games, then we're going to be not happy. We're going to obviously push back and go, look, this is stupid. They wouldn't act like that. They don't talk like that. They don't look like that. So I think the way you did it is the best way to go. If you're going to adapt a video game series, adapt the world and make new stories within that world, not specifically focus on a character. Because if you don't get that right, it's not going to work. And it's the same with movies.
Just because we are unfortunately a little pressed for time now. Not that the conversations were going too long. Just we talked so much about some previous topics, and I love that. But just because we're a little pressed for time, I'm gonna make this our last question for today. Um, for a game or franchise that has yet to have a TV or film adaptation, which would you like to see in the future?
What, like a movie or a TV show?
Yeah, like if there's a game that you have wanted to be either a TV show or a film that hasn't already been adapted for TV or film, what game would you love to see reimagined?
Well, I was looking forward to a Borderlands movie, and then I watched it. And then it was like, we had to address that elephant in the room as well. And when you talk about adaptations, so back in the day, it would have been something like Borderlands, but like I touched on before, I know we've had a Halo TV series, and that was, oh, again, you focus on the character, but the character was different. If it could have just done the world, probably Gears of War, again, the world in that and the lore and the setting would be amazing as a movie or in the TV show. And again, like you said about Fallout, it doesn't necessarily have to be people like Marcus and Dom. It
Hmm.
could be for world setting, could be other people in that world on that planet fighting for Locust. They could obviously go off on a tangent because the games have had spin-offs where you play as different characters in that world. So if they did a TV show and followed Fallout's formula where they focus on the world and new characters, nobody can complain saying, well, that's not how they look, that's not how they would behave. Be like, well, it's a new character. But you could still have a faithful adaptation because of the world and the monsters and the setting and everything. So, personally, Gears of War, maybe even like Bully, going back to Bully before, that I think that would
Oh
be
yeah.
an amazing as a film if done right. I mean, Grand Theft Auto as a movie, you could do that in so many ways, but could you? Because it's not something special. It's just a guy running around or a girl running around, stealing cars, driving around the city, shooting people. You get movies like that all the time, so some things adapt better than others. But obviously, if you've done games like based on the turtles and stuff, there's a character which I do love. If you know the Legacy of Kain series.
Oh yeah. I haven't heard of that series in a long time.
Yes, one of my favorite characters. Well, apart from Kane himself, who's a vampire and a badass one, for Soul Reaver games, Raziel. If you
Yeah.
played for Soul Reaver games, have they remastered them recently? Raziel as a character is brilliant. I love him to bits. Sometime when I play a game where you name your character, I call him Raziel because I'm a nerd. But for Legacy of Kain games, adapted a bit like they've done with Castlevania and even Devil May Cry, even if it's an animated series, that would translate so well as a setting and stuff. And I would love to see like Kane and Raziel in a TV show. It will probably be more animated because it lends itself more towards that
Yeah.
side of the medium, like Devil May Cry. But yeah, something like with that, it would definitely be Gears of War as a movie or a live action TV show, and something like Legacy of Kain as an animated TV show, probably on Netflix. But that's my things, just pulling them out of my head.
I would say, for my answer for this, if you had asked me a year ago, I would say Legend of Zelda. And obviously now we know it's coming out next year or in the next 2 years, depending on delays.
Yeah.
With that in mind, since Legend of Zelda has already been taken, my next want would be Bioshock.
Oh, good choice. That would be fantastic. Yes.
Especially because,
Again,
like, whenever I think about these things, I always think about not necessarily just would it be cool to see that as a live action show or a movie, but how would they be realistically able to do it? And I think
yes.
there's so much real life capability and background to something like Bioshock that could be easily adapted to a live action adaptation, because the game is basically all politics and morality versus scientific advancement.
Yeah.
It lends itself to discussions between characters that have impactful meaning, and that's basically what TV is and movie is watching characters talk to each other in between action spurts.
And obviously, in the focal point of that show, like Fallout wouldn't be characters, it'll be Rapture. It would be the city itself and the people in it. And you could do stories not necessarily directly linked to Andrew Ryan and everyone, Atlas. It could be like other people in the city when it went to hell and
Oh
how that
yeah.
would you could have so many stories spinning off from it. You don't have to be faithful to the games with them characters. It could be completely new. Just as long as you get Rapture right and you get the big daddies and the splicers, as long as you get them key elements right, that would be fantastic. I
You
would,
could even
yes,
do like the way I imagine it, because whenever I think of these things, I really think them like more thoroughly than they need to be thought of. Um, I would imagine like half of the movie or half of the show, whichever it is. A TV show would probably be better for Bioshock with more time to expand on things. Um, the first part being about like the development of the big city there,
Building a reaction sort of thing, the actual how it came together, and then watching its downfall.
Yeah, like
You can put all the multiple
the
seasons, couldn't
societal
you?
impact on like this mega billionaire deciding to build their own underwater city. Like that's material, that's construction, that's all of these things that's directly against like sovereignty in the previously established like governments of the world and everything. So there's so much possibility for there to be like, hey, you know, how are other people outside of the creation of Rapture viewing this type of event occurring in their world?
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I envision it. But that's where we're sadly going to have to stop things here. Uh, Guru, thank you so much for coming on, talking about media. I've loved this discussion, and I can tell, as you said it before, you could talk about any of these topics for hours. Maybe we'll have to do like a Guru part 2 in the
I
future,
would love
maybe.
to be back if you would have me in that one. I think we've got plenty more we could talk about and discuss, but it has been an absolute pleasure, Epi. I thank you for the invite, and I'm hoping like people listening to this will enjoy it as much as we've enjoyed chatting about it.
Well, it's like what we said about movies in theaters before. If they're not liking it, they have the option to click off. But I do hope
Yes.
that people listen all the way through.
But yeah, so yeah, in terms of like, I think we've covered a lot of topics. We've put a lot of thought into them, and hopefully it's entertaining enough for everyone, and it makes people thinking about their own views about the topics we've discussed.
Well, that is going to be it for us for today. I want to thank you all for listening. I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day. Take care and goodbye.
Bye.